She couldn't believe it. The human was feasting on the planet's apex predator. The crimson sun of Ghor'tal Prime cast long shadows across the hunting grounds as Ambassador Kira watched in stunned silence. Her 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as she processed what she was witnessing. The human she had been assigned to guide through the most dangerous continent on her homeworld was casually roasting chunks of meat over a makeshift fire. The meat belonged to a creature that had terrorized her people for millennia. The Shadowclaw lay dead near, by its massive form stretched across 20 meters of scorched earth. Its obsidian scales still gleamed with an otherworldly sheen, and its 6 razor-sharp claws, each longer than Kira herself, remained extended in death. The creature that had single-handedly wiped out entire Voltaran settlements was now becoming dinner for a being that stood barely half its height. Jack Thompson, the human representative from Earth, seemed completely oblivious to the magnitude of what he had accomplished. He hummed a tune while turning the meat over the flames, occasionally seasoning it with spices from a small pouch he carried. His casual demeanor suggested he might as well have been preparing a simple meal at home, rather than consuming the flesh of a legendary apex predator. Kira had been chosen for this diplomatic mission because of her extensive knowledge of Voltaran wildlife and her ability to communicate with other species. She had spent years studying the behavioral patterns of various predators on her world, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The Shadowclaw was not just another dangerous animal. It was a creature of nightmares that had shaped the very evolution of her species. Her ancestors had built their cities underground, not because they preferred darkness, but because the surface belonged to creatures like the Shadowclaw. These beasts possessed intelligence that bordered on sentience, combined with physical capabilities that made them nearly unstoppable. They could phase through solid matter for short distances, had venomous breath that could melt steel, and moved with a speed that defied their massive size. The human had dispatched it with tools that seemed almost primitive by galactic standards. No plasma cannons or molecular disruptors, just a combination of explosives, projectile weapons, and what appeared to be careful planning. Jack had studied the creature for 3 days before making his move, setting traps and using the environment to his advantage in ways that impressed even Kira, who had spent her entire life on this world. What disturbed her most was not the killing itself, but the casualness with which the human approached the aftermath. Among her people, the rare instances when a Shadowclaw was killed were followed by elaborate ceremonies. The body would be preserved and displayed as a testament to the courage of those who had faced such a beast. The idea of consuming its flesh was not just unthinkable, it bordered on sacrilege. Yet Jack seemed to find the meat perfectly acceptable. He had explained that on Earth, humans regularly consumed the flesh of their planet's apex predators. Bears, sharks, large cats, and other dangerous creatures were all considered potential food sources. The concept of hunting for sustenance rather than mere survival was foreign to most species in the galaxy, but humans appeared to have built their entire culture around it. Kira watched as Jack carefully sliced the cooked meat with a knife that looked almost ceremonial in its craftsmanship. The blade moved with practiced precision, suggesting this was not the first time he had prepared such a meal. His movements were economical and purposeful, showing respect for the creature, even as he transformed it into nourishment. The smell of the cooking meat filled the air, carrying with it a complex aroma that was both appealing and terrifying. Kira found herself drawn to the scent despite every instinct telling her to flee. The meat smelled rich and flavorful, nothing like the metallic tang she had expected from such a fearsome predator. Her own digestive system was not designed to process such protein, but she could appreciate the skill with which it was being prepared. As Jack continued his meal preparation, he began to share stories of similar hunts on Earth. He spoke of tracking grizzly bears through dense forests, of diving into shark-infested waters, and of facing down charging rhinos with nothing but primitive weapons. Each tale was told with the same matter-of-fact tone, as if describing a routine grocery shopping trip. The human explained that on Earth the relationship between predator and prey was fluid. Humans had clawed their way to the top of the food chain, not through natural physical advantages, but through intelligence tool use and an almost reckless willingness to face danger. They had turned hunting into an art form, and consumption into a celebration of victory over nature itself. This revelation forced Kira to reconsider everything she thought she knew about humans and their place in the galactic community. Most species had evolved beyond the need to hunt for survival, developing agriculture and synthetic alternatives early in their development. Humans had maintained their predatory instincts long after they had mastered their environment, creating a culture that celebrated the conquest of dangerous prey. The implications were staggering. If humans could casually hunt and consume creatures that terrorized entire civilizations, what did that say about their potential as allies or enemies? Kira had been briefed on human military capabilities, but seeing Jack calmly eating a shadowclaw gave her a new perspective on what those capabilities truly meant. As the meal progressed, Jack offered to share the cooked meat with Kira. She politely declined, explaining that her physiology could not process such protein, but she was fascinated by his willingness to share. Among her people, food was carefully rationed, and sharing was reserved for close family members. The human concept of hospitality seemed to extend even to the consumption of legendary predators. Jack finished his meal with obvious satisfaction, wiping the grease from his hands with a cloth that he then carefully cleaned and stored. He had consumed perhaps a tenth of the available meat, leaving the rest for scavengers or preservation. The casual waste of such valuable protein was another shock to Kira, who had been raised to view any protein source as precious. The human began to clean his weapons and equipment with the same methodical care he had shown in preparing the meal. Each tool was inspected, maintained, and properly stored, showing a level of discipline that spoke to years of experience. His movements were those of someone who had survived countless dangerous encounters through careful preparation and attention to detail. As they prepared to continue their journey across the continent, Kira found herself viewing the landscape differently. What had once seemed like an impossibly dangerous wasteland now appeared as merely another hunting ground. If a single human could defeat a shadowclaw with such apparent ease, what other supposedly invincible creatures might prove vulnerable to human ingenuity? The diplomatic implications of this revelation were enormous. Her government had been considering a defensive alliance with Earth based on human technological and military capabilities. Now she realized that humans brought something far more valuable to any partnership: the ability to thrive in environments that would destroy most other species. Jack shouldered his pack and gestured toward the distant mountains where their destination lay. His stride was confident and relaxed, as if the encounter with the Shadowclaw had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Kira followed, still processing what she had witnessed and wondering what other surprises the human might reveal before their journey ended. The sun continued its descent toward the horizon, casting the hunting grounds in deeper shades of red and gold. In the distance, the calls of other predators could be heard as the nocturnal hunters began to stir. What had once filled Kira with dread now seemed almost mundane. After watching a human feast on a Shadowclaw, she was beginning to understand that the greatest predators in the galaxy might not be the ones with the sharpest claws or the most venomous bite. As they walked, Jack continued to hum the same tune, from earlier, seemingly without a care in the world. His casual attitude in the face of constant danger was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the entire encounter. Kira realized that she was not just witnessing a different species, but an entirely different philosophy of existence, one that embraced danger rather than merely surviving it. The diplomatic mission had taken on a new dimension, and Kira knew that her report would fundamentally change how her government viewed humanity. The question was no longer whether humans could be trusted as allies, but whether any species could afford to have them as enemies. The image of Jack calmly eating the flesh of her world's most feared predator would haunt her thoughts for years to come. The journey across Ghor'tal Prime had only just begun, but already Kira understood that she was witnessing something that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans were not just another spacefaring species, they were apex predators who had learned to hunt among the stars. And judging by Jack's satisfied expression as he finished his meal, they had developed quite an appetite for the challenge.